Hello everybody. Today what I want to do, I'm a Spanish teacher. My name is Allen Legorburu, and today what I want to do in this session is to mentor somebody who is going to take over my place for next year, and I would like to teach or show the strategies that I have been following or creating for myself during 4 years that I've been teaching Spanish as a full-time teacher. And yeah, I have gotten good results. I've seen good, development in the Spanish of my students during these 4 years, and I've been developing my own program, which has been, I think, one of the keys of the success to develop everything from scratch. I am a teacher who doesn't work with textbooks. Everything that I teach to my students, it's coming from the packages and the information that I've been creating myself for my students. The way I teach is using the English as a translations, with translations. Here I have somebody who is going to learn from me, and I would like to, everybody has a different methodology. My methodology is using English with the translation. So my methodology only works for students who speak English as a native speakers, and they are going to learn Spanish as a second language or foreign language, because I am not teaching Spanish in an immersion way. I'm teaching Spanish abroad right now in the United States. So I wouldn't think that my methodology is going to work for somebody who doesn't speak English. That's first. And second of all, I wouldn't think that my methodology is suitable for teaching Spanish in Spain in an immersion context. This is not an immersion context. This is a school. I'm teaching just for 150 minutes a week. I don't send homework because it's my philosophy too as a teacher. So that's the reason why I think the help of the translations and using the translations, it's a big advantage for my students. Okay, so let's go step by step. Also, I would like to say that this program, or what I'm going to show today, is to teach Spanish from the level 0. So for example, if you have students who have been studying Spanish for 3 years and they have acquired some level of Spanish, that is not going to serve you. I hope this serves you if you are going to start a program with the students who are in the level 0. Okay, and I'm going to tell you right now my steps, the steps I follow with my students in order for them to acquire some knowledge, and finally, after 1 year, this is important, after 1 year of learning, be able to have conversations, understand me well, not a high-level conversations, but yes, a very significant level of Spanish. Okay, so there are proofs, and that's the reason why I want to share all this process with you. If you think that there are things that I would have to, or it would be nice to adjust, any more ideas, I would like you to contribute and send me an email or a message telling me your feedback and what you like or what you don't like. Okay, first of all, the very first day, I would start with the personal pronouns. Personal pronouns. As I said, my students create their own textbook. Okay, I have here 2 samples, 2 copies, and they create. As you can see, the first page is personal pronouns. Okay. The personal pronouns are so important that we use them all the time. My approach of teaching is the communicational teaching. Communicational approach of teaching languages. So I try to use all those components that are for communication. You cannot teach everything to your students. They have to learn so many things by themselves. There is no time. Time is precious. And just with 150 minutes a week, you have to really focus your attention and your teaching in the important things. Personal pronouns, probably the first day. Okay? We all know what personal pronouns is. I can teach you, I can show you here. This is one notebook that my students did back in the day. You can see the personal pronouns, all these guys. I don't start with ustedes, but if you work with ustedes, you can use ustedes. For me, it's because I don't want to confuse my students with formal, not formal, and I am from Spain, so I use vosotros, but I know it could be complex for some students. Okay, so depending on where you are from, your goals, what you want them to learn, you can use it or not. That's up to you. More things. Second day, or maybe even the first day. If you have questions, just let me know, please.
Yeah.
Just let me know. First day, this. Okay? Second day, probably second day. Immediately. Let's go to the next. The possessive adjectives. One more time, vuestros or vuestras, it's gonna be up to you. I know that for many students it's hard to understand. That's one of the differences between English and Spanish. In English, we say you guys, it's the same you. In Spanish, it's going to be tú, vosotros, ustedes. It's a little bit hard. When there are those kind of differences between the languages is when you have to stop. You have to stop and you have to really be stress or highlight that teaching for the students to see the differences. Okay? So this is second. Why? Because this is going to give you so much room to build sentences. As I said, my approach is the translation, grammatical translation approach of teaching, and also the structuralism. So I teach by structures, especially when I start teaching Spanish in the level 0. Okay? Okay, so this is important, Laura. Once you give this to your students, it's also recommended to give them some vocabulary. Start for some vocabulary. And the vocabulary, so we have seen personal pronouns, possessive adjectives, the vocabulary, the nouns, we need vocabulary. The nouns that I would start from would be, for example, the vocabulary of the family. Okay? The vocabulary of the family works. Dad, siblings, brother, sister. So, by the time they start building sentences, they have here already mi hermano, tu hermana, su padre. Okay? So you can combine this with this vocabulary. And what you want is that, structures. Give them resources. What the teacher wants is to give the students resources for them to start having tools to build sentences. All right, so we got those two. Third, very important, probably also the first day of class. And this could be the most important thing of the year. Okay? Because you have to be permanently with these items. And this is the first day of class. It's the verbs. Okay? The verbs. The most common verbs for communication.
So that's the second day, the verb, or you use
Nothing.
the
That's a good question. So they are going to write this on the notebook. The personal pronouns, as well as the possessive adjectives. They are going to write them they are going to build their notebook, okay? With me, they do it that way. Because if you give them all the papers, especially I teach middle school, ages from 11 through 13. I see that many of the packages I give them, maybe they are careless and they lose them. The notebook, you are teaching the students one extra thing, to be organized, to be neat. I'm not going to speak about how I grade my grading system because it has nothing to do with this presentation, but the notebook really helps them to learn. Okay, so yes, possessive adjectives, pronouns and possessive adjectives. You write it and they copy it in the notebook, okay? But not this. It's going to take you a lot of time. So why to give the students the list of verbs? Because you don't want to spend all this time copying all these verbs on the whiteboard. I did when I first started teaching. I did it. But time is gold. Time is everything. And this is so important when we teach languages. Okay, this is a big one. Okay, what do I have here? For me, I built a list of the most important verbs for communication. Serie start, to be, to give, can, to want, to think, to help, to advise, to choose, to ask, to request, to live, to say, and so on, and so on, and so on. So yes, Laura, probably the first day, give them this paper and tell them what I'm saying. This is the most important thing. The verbs are the action words. If we don't know the vocabulary, we cannot say the word. If we don't know the vocabulary, we cannot understand. The grammar, it's structures, it's mechanics. I teach you the mechanics, and it's not that hard to understand. A little bit of practice, and they understand the grammar. This is memorization. I am reading an article right now, how important the memorization is. Advice. How can you get the students to memorize all this thing? So go slow. First, one paper with the most important ones. And in the middle of the school year, you add more words. Okay, that's what I do. And it works. I have here also, important, mix regular verbs with irregular verbs. Because one thing is conjugations, okay? But the other thing is the meaning of the words. They need to know the meaning, okay? So if they don't conjugate well, for example, tener, because they only know they only learn at the beginning of the school year the regular verb conjugation, nothing happens. At least they know the meaning of the word, okay? So knowing the meaning of the words, I would say that is the most important thing in languages. The mechanics of the grammar, it's important. Everybody wants to speak well. The grammar is important. But the words, if you don't know the words, you don't understand. Your motivation goes down. If you know the words, you can speak. Your motivation goes up. You can speak, you can understand, your motivation goes up. You don't understand, you cannot speak, your motivation goes down. Motivation is key in languages. Key, and especially with kids. Okay, so we have to play with motivation. So, the next, how can we teachers get the students to memorize all these words? Okay, I'm telling you, my experience has taught me that the students, especially at this age, at this range of ages, they learn because of the motivation of getting good grades or satisfying their parents. So, how can they satisfy their parents or get grades? By doing exams. You have to do a lot of exams. The first exam, For example, I wouldn't do an exam just with the vocabulary. I wouldn't. Okay, so you give them this, you give them some time, start slow, the vocabulary of the family, some pronouns, some possessive adjectives. What I would do after this explanation, you have already given this to your students. You tell them, this is the vocabulary. That's what I do, Laura. I say to my students, the only vocabulary you are going to be assessed or examined on is this, the verbs, the action words. This is the only vocabulary exam that I do with my students, no more. I don't do adjectives exams, vocabulary of the adjectives, anything else. I will teach you then, I will show you later how I do all the rest. Okay, but yes, this, you tell them, this is important, they start memorizing it. I don't want to forget, Laura, important. Tell your students that it makes a huge difference, or at least I have seen a huge difference between the students that make flashcards for memorization and the students who don't make flashcards. They have to make their own flashcards. One flashcard, one card, for example, abrir, on the other side, to open. I see sometimes students in my class when they have a little bit of free time practicing. Okay, what is this word to open? The others say abrir. Okay, and they are playing with flashcards. It makes a huge difference. I've seen it throughout my years as a teacher. The students who have their own set of flashcards, they really learn their words. The students who only are studying from the paper the day before of the exam, they don't learn that much. Okay, so the importance of the flashcards. Okay, so they have already this. You have taught, okay, sorry about this. You have taught this, and then also, almost the first week, the first days, the next step with this, in my class, the next step is going straight to the conjugations, regular verb conjugations. I'm gonna teach you what I have for that. It's here. Okay, this is the past tense, we don't go there yet. Yes, here. Regular verb conjugations. Regular verb conjugations. You have to give your students a package. Exactly like that I have here, I can show you. Okay? And this is the package. That is here. It's okay. Anyways, it's exactly like that one. And you have to start practicing the conjugations. So I've seen many teachers who don't start with conjugations until the second year. Or they don't start with conjugations until, I don't know, until a while after starting the school, the program. A ver, Spanish, it's a language that is built in conjugations. We are conjugating verbs all the time. All the time. So start from the beginning. The students need to know what the language is about. And I know it's hard at the beginning. I know it's pretty hard to start with conjugation. It's gonna be a little confusing for them. But the sooner they get used to it, the better. Conjugations, thanks to the conjugations, they are going to understand much better, because you as a teacher, you want to speak. You want to speak Spanish as much as you want in your class. But you cannot say many things if you know that they are not going to start understanding a little bit, because their motivation is going to go down. So if they know the conjugations, every time you say to one student, yo quiero escribir, that quiero, they know already that, or you say just quiero, because thanks to the conjugations, many times we avoid saying the personal pronouns. They know that who is the subject. Okay, yo quiero, vamos vamos a estudiar, va a trabajar, ella no trabaja, él trabaja. They are going to start understanding the language, okay? Just because they know the conjugations, they are going to know what the subject is. So how to start with the conjugations? So you take a time, you explain how the language works, and then practice. I like to practice, Laura, this is important, the conjugations in groups, okay? Take a time, take 3 or 4 days, or at least two, maybe 3 days to practice the conjugations, okay? So this here I have, I take the words from my list. Don't put other words. Give them the words to practice that they already have on their list. Don't, you want them to learn those words. So this is it, okay? This is, for example, I have here, ayudar. I have intentar, usar, guardar, escribir, necesitar, okay? And then, so here, what I have here, I'm gonna do it a little bigger. It's, for example, I write ayudar, okay? And I write yo, nosotras. Nosotras, ¿vale? Okay, the first thing the students have to identify, and this is important, is what's this first, second, or third conjugation? What is this? It's the first. By this time, you should have taught what first conjugation is, second conjugation is, and the third one is. They need to know that this is the first. They know. They should know that they have to pay attention to the conjugation, to the end of the word, which is because this is what is going to change depending on the personal pronoun. Okay? What is, attention here, Laura, teach them this. Teach them to do this, okay? Because we are going to teach at the beginning only regular conjugations. Only regular. So teach them, this is what I do. I tell them, okay, whatever it is here, just copy this straight. Ayud, ayud. Okay? That's it. That is correct. Okay? It's correct so far. Okay? So now, go to the papers. They have to have that on packages, or to look at that, but give them packages. So what is gonna be for yo? Yo, it's the O. Ayudo. What is gonna be for nosotras? It's amos. Okay? Yo ayudo, nosotras ayudamos. Okay? That's correct. Okay, but now, and this is very important, you need to know that your students know what they're saying. Okay? You need to verify as a teacher that the students know what they're saying. So, here, I always ask my students, I need you to give me the translation. If you don't give me the translation, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what is in your mind. Because if they tell me, for example, she studies here, that sometimes I see that, sometimes I see this kind of translations, yo ayudo, she studies, obviously, it's not correct. The mechanics, right, she knows how to conjugate. She has learned the grammar, she has learned the mechanics. But one more time, the words and the meaning of the words, it's more important than the mechanics. She doesn't know the vocabulary. She doesn't know the vocabulary, or the student, any student, doesn't know, it's showing that doesn't know the vocabulary of the pronouns first, the personal pronouns. Because yo is not she, okay? And secondly, this student hasn't know the vocabulary of the verbs, which is, as I said, incredibly important. Okay, yo, the vocabulary of the pronouns, the vocabulary of the verbs. So this could be very wrong. So this student is showing that he knows or she knows the mechanics, but doesn't know the meaning of the words, which is for me bad. Okay, but it's okay. That's the reason why we practice. So the answer would be I help. Okay? And Laura, take some days, start this exercise here on the whiteboard first. Okay, doing it like this. And then in groups. And then a little bit individually. Take some days for this. Okay? Take some, that's what I would do. Take some days for this. That ways, they are going to learn, Laura, they are going to learn 3 things at the same time. They are going to learn by mechanics, by practice, they are going to learn the personal pronouns. By practice, they are going to learn the verbs, at least a few. We don't want, it's not imaginable, it's not logic that one student is going to learn all these things in 1 week. Okay? It's not about memorizing. What we really want is by the end of the school year to know the majority of them. This is a long-term process. Okay? So, they are going to learn some vocabulary and they are going to learn also the mechanics. 3 weeks. Three things at the same exercise. And you are gaining time. Okay? Conjugations, the vocabulary of the verbs that we want them to learn, and the pronouns. Wonderful. So this is the first weeks, the first days. Okay? What would I do, Laura, this is important. What would I do once, definitely, please, once you see that you have given the students enough time to practice all this thing, exam. And the exam is this, is doing exactly the same exercise. ¿Vale? For example, here is robar. Ella roba, and the translations. Exams. Start doing exams. I know it's a lot of work for the teacher because we have to correct many exams, but if there is no exams, there is no learning. It's what really exams are. Definitely for me, the main reason why 90% of the students study, okay, or learn. If there is no exam, there is no pressure. They don't feel the motivation for learning. All right, so good. So those would be good steps at the beginning of the school year. What else would do? Okay. Now, as I said, this is a communicational approach of teaching, okay, and learning. So they are learning important things here, but the students want something else too. The students want to see themselves speaking some Spanish, right? You know? So, to take a break from all this, because I know for a student at the age of 11, 12, starting with all these things could be a little bit overwhelming. I understand that. So take a break, do the exam, keep practicing, take a break and start working. What I like to do is another section on my notebook for basic conversations. Okay? What are those basic conversations about? So it's simple, but it's to give the students some tools to start speaking, to see themselves that they are speaking already. So for example, let's start from ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo estás? Vale, speaker number 1, speaker 1, speaker 2, estoy muy bien, y tú, you know? So, give them this conversation, for example, okay? And tell them, from now on, please, I am going to, every time you come across me on the corridor or wherever, let's start using this. And they are going to do it. But, as they don't know so many things, always use translations, Laura, please. Okay? How are you? you know, they are going to like it because they are going to see that they are speaking some Spanish. But what is the other side of this? They are going to they might make some relationships, but as you haven't taught yet, it's gonna be a little confusing. My experience as a teacher has taught me also that for the students, especially middle school, this program is not for very young kids or children. In middle school, they like to understand what they are saying. Okay, it's not only about I say "cómo estás," and okay, that is how are you. No, they like to understand why, and "cómo" is how, and "estás" is are, and now that you are starting with this, you tell them also, you see guys, the conjugation is here. Because for example, Laura, if you speak this, if you teach this first before the conjugations, the first problem is this. They don't know this. Yeah. But you speak first the conjugations and you say, ¿cómo estás? And you remind the students, hey, you see here the conjugation, I don't need to put a to here. Because normally when we ask questions in Spanish, we don't write the personal pronoun, ever. Laura speaks Spanish. Laura, we don't really ask questions like, ¿cómo tú estás? We don't say that. We say, ¿cómo estás? Especially when we ask questions. So, they want to know, hey, where is this you going? What's happening here? After explaining the conjugations, it all makes sense. It all makes sense because they know that as, it's you. There's no other way. Okay? And as I said, Spanish is a language that is completely built in conjugations. Okay, so take a little time with this, Laura. For example, this is one. Another one would be, I would say maybe, ¿cuántos años tienes? You know, but especially, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cuántos años tienes? Another one would be a very common question that the students ask you, can I go to the restroom? So, ¿puedo ir al baño? Have them ask you in Spanish those questions. It's very simple, but they are going to understand that puedo is I can. Okay? ¿Puedo ir al baño? Give them always, please, Laura, the translations. Okay? Because that way they can make relationships. Puedo, can, I, go. The sooner they understand that it is go, the better. It's a big word. In English, in Spanish, and in any language, to go, ir, it's a big word. Okay? Al baño. Okay. This is what I say, this is to take a break from so much grammar. Because that way you give them some resources to practice and to see themselves that they are starting to speak Spanish. Wonderful. If you do an exam about this, Laura, too, I did an exam in the first term about this and I told them, I had just 4 of this. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cuántos años tienes? Very simple. Do an exam and tell them, hey, maybe in the middle of the term, tell them, we're going to do an exam about basic conversations. They only have to speak with you in one-on-one about ¿cómo estás? You ask questions, they answer, okay? And that is, okay? That way, it's good for them to memorize these basic things. But only with these basic things, there is nothing. All right. Next step. Okay. Okay, so imagine we are right now in the middle of the first term. In the middle of the first trimester. Okay, a few weeks, working on conjugations, a little bit of this. What I would do next. Also, Laura, very important, they need nouns. They need vocabulary. For me, The research says that the best way to teach Spanish is to contextualize everything we are teaching. For me as a teacher, the first context we have in the classroom is the school. The school is the first context. Therefore, I would label, Laura, in Spanish, this, the wall, the ceiling, the door, the table, the book, the notebook, the computer, the computer room, the technology room. Label a little bit the environment. I haven't done it this year for many reasons. I haven't had time to do it, but it's good. Okay. Also, you can add the vocabulary of the human body. It's okay, you know. Write, I don't know, on the wall, a human body, a little bit of the vocabulary of the human body. It's good too. Those things at the beginning in the first term. Okay, now, what I will do next. Important. That vocabulary of the human body, as well as the labeling of the school. This is the next lesson, Laura. Okay? Vocabulary of the nouns plus the articles. Articles, I think it's gonna be definite and indefinite articles. Now I'm gonna tell you what it is. Okay, so this is this. So you see here, Laura, also that we are combining two lessons. We have to combine as many lessons as we can. As I said, time is gold. Okay, so here. So you explain, for example, the vocabulary of the human body. ¿Vale? Boca, oreja, mano, and the vocabulary of labeling. El libro, computadora, and so on and so on. Okay, so here, Laura, don't explain only these words. What we have to explain here is the article. La boca, la oreja, la irregular, that's why I'm doing this star, la mano, el libro, la computadora. Teach them also. Imagine that, for example, add the plurals. Las, los libros. So what I would do before starting with all these things, I would do this. The is el, la, los, las. And what I would do, Laura, and this is so important before starting with this lesson, the first thing we have to tell the students is this, especially to native English speaking students. In Spanish, everything, absolutely everything has a gender, masculine or feminine. They are going to say, wow! Because in English, nothing has a gender, just people. You know, the table is the table. It's not la mesa. In Spanish, the table has the gender feminine. The watch has the gender masculine. Okay? A big change from English. So take a time. Every time there is a big change between English and Spanish, you have to really make the students aware of it. They need to see, oh, this is a big difference. Wow, this is irregularities for me. Okay, so explain this and tell them that everything. This is the reason why for this The reason for this is that in Spanish everything is with gender, masculine and feminine. Also, Laura explained the A in Spanish. It's gonna be un or una, algún, alguna. No, alguna no, that's not. Or some, una or some. Some. This is a little tricky because alguno, alguna, algún. Don't worry too much about it. This is more important, okay? Una, unos, unas. Some is unos, unas. This is not totally correct what I'm saying here. It is not totally correct. There is much more than that. But don't go to the specifics. So what we want, Laura, the first year of instruction for students who are in the level 0 is to go from the general to the particular. So don't go to the particular the first year. Teach the general rules. Because it's already a lot. Teach the general rules, and slowly as you keep teaching and you're learning, and they are going to start asking you too, you go and you start teaching the particularities. Okay? Don't teach particularities. That might affect negatively in the students' motivation. Go from the general rule, and from the general rule all the way to the particular things. All right. So I think with this, you are already covering exercises, Laura. I have worksheets for this. Okay, so the worksheets are, for example, boca, and here a gap to fill. Okay, and they have to fill the gap. It's very easy. Laura, don't forget that they have to fill the gap, and they have to give you the translation, because the translation is showing you what they know. Okay, la boca, the mouth. Okay, okay, and for example, add in the same exercise, for example, you can do this too. You can do this, oreja, and you can write here, and, you know, you give them the clue, so they have to put here una, right? Una and ear. Okay? So play with this. I think we are here more or less would be in the middle end of the first trimester, because we have to work these things on in depth. Okay? This is not just one day class. We need to explain, they need to take notes, they need to practice. And remember, Laura, that the exams are important. Okay. And the key thing, for me, this is important. For me, here is one of the times in which I have seen in my career how everything takes off. Everything takes off. Okay, and it's this moment. Is when after this, Laura, you are going to teach this. And this, it's probably the most important thing I'm going to tell you today. Because once you do this, you are going to see, or at least I have seen, that the motivation of the students goes up very much. Do you know why? Because they are going to see that they are able to build long sentences. They are really able to see things that they couldn't even imagine they could say before starting the school program. Especially 2 months or 3 after starting from 0. And it's this, Laura. So we are going to focus first in the three grammar constructions. And these are the 3 grammar constructions. Tener que más infinitivo. Ir a más infinitivo. poder más infinitivo. First, this. The next step, let's start first with this, okay? First one, this, for sure, okay? Okay? Just that. Definitely, you have to give them this. Tener, and then you have to give them ir. I can show you all of them that I have them here. Since the very beginning, I tell my students that these words are not on the wall just because. If they are on the wall, it's because they are important and they must be learned soon, very quick. Okay? So tener que plus infinitivo, it's gonna be, for example, you just at the beginning in English, you're going to tell them, I have to study. Okay? And they are not going to really know what it is. They already should know because you gave them the words study. They already should know what study is. And what you're going to do here, they already should know. Ask them, it's what do you get from here? And the first one is going to be, they're going to tell you, I get this. Okay? And then they are going to tell you, I get this. Okay? And this is going to be the construction. Okay? This is going to be the big construction, which is going to be, yo tengo. Remember that you have to give them the papers. They are going to have here the resource too, but give them the paper in physical. Okay? Tengo, and then que. Okay? Just that. It's a focus on the form or on the shape. We call it la atención a la forma en español. ¿Vale? They don't need to understand the meaning of, no, it's grammar. This grammar has nothing to do with having things. For sure, you have to explain first that tener is to have. For sure. Okay? But this is grammar. You have to tell the students that this grammar has nothing to do with having things, with possessing things. I have a table that has to do with having things. But this, no. This is just grammar. I have to study. Okay? I've got to study. I gotta study. Whichever you want. Okay? But this is the formal way to say it. This is not a slang. Tengo que estudiar. Okay? I have to study. Why I'm teaching this first to the students? Okay. When I was in... I studied English by myself, and I started to study 8 years ago. I knew zero English. Zero. Okay? I didn't speak any word. Just a few words that I learned when I was a kid in school, but I was terrible. I was failing all my exams in English. And at the age of 28, I went to Norway to study English by myself. My university gave me the chance to go to Norway to study, and that was a very tough experience because I had to study all these things by myself. So I realized that the first grammar construction that I was using for communication as I was learning English by myself was this. I had to say, I have to go to the restroom. I have to study. I have to pay for the soda. That was the first grammar construction I started to use in real life when I didn't have any other chance to speak English. Okay? The only chance was speaking English. So, this is the reason why I'm applying this in my classroom. All right. So, my students are going to say, wow, I like this. Okay? Now, the key thing is once you are here, first keep practicing, okay? You tell the students, okay, this is the example. Then you tell the students, okay, who can say you have to learn, okay? And somebody's going to say, yeah, I know it. Tú tienes que estudiar. No, tú tienes que aprender. Sorry about that. Tú tienes que aprender. Then I'm going to increase the amount of words, the construction of the word. I'm going to say, they have to learn Spanish, okay? And somebody's going to say, yeah, ellos tienen que aprender español. And you can feel as a teacher that their motivation is like, wow, I'm starting to say cool things. I'm starting to say long sentences and sentences that is not only how are you, okay? I'm giving information too. I'm making statements too, okay? So, cool. So you have to increase this. Heck, keep practicing. She's going to help Maestro Allen. Ella va a ayudar Maestro Allen. For sure there are gonna be few mistakes. Ayudar a Maestro Allen. But you don't want to teach that at the beginning. As I said, those are particularities and those require much longer teaching and they are not at the level of receiving that teaching yet. Okay? So to work and help, work with their motivation. If you see that something, it could be a little overwhelming, don't teach it yet, teach it later. Okay, but key things here, okay? For example, remove this one, okay? For example, and this is so important, here you have to, as you practice this is as you practice this, remember that the students are taking notes all the time. Here it is, all the notes that they are required to take in my class. This is not optional. It's not optional. They have to take all these notes, okay? Because they learn from the writing, from the participation in class, you know? Okay, so here, the next one that is so important is to add here the linkers, the conjunctions and the prepositions. The first one that I love to teach is this one, okay? You have to study, tienes que aprender, in order to. In order to. In order to. They are not used to say in order to in English. But you have to tell the students one thing, that in order to is para. It's a clause of purpose. You teach in order, so you study in order to, there is a purpose, in order to get something. Okay? When there is a goal, when you teach this, in order to, it's a clause of purpose. You use it when there is a goal. You're doing something for a goal. And we many times speak this way. In the way that I'm going to do something in order to get something. Okay? Laura, so this is the first grammar, Laura. Okay? This is the first grammar. Okay? Teach them. You give them this here like this. Only this, okay? And tell them what you know. They are going to tell you. Estudiar. They should say that. At this point, they should give you that. And you give them the grammar. And the grammar is going to be, you give them the paper, they can look at here too, and they should conjugate because they already know that everything is based on conjugations. Some students maybe say, yo tener. Run. Run, and you should have taught already and let them know that after the personal pronoun, always after the personal pronoun, we conjugate. After yo, after she, after mi tío, after mi madre, we have to conjugate. Always. Okay? Yo tener, no. Yo tengo, and then yes, they are going to ask you, what is que? And this is going to bring some mistakes from them because que is a big word in Spanish. This is going to bring some mistakes in the future that you are going to solve in class. But right now, don't tell them that. Right now, don't tell them that. Yo tengo que estudiar. Okay? Just that. And tell them, this is the construction. And Laura, this is very important. Tell them that this half has nothing to do with having things. This is grammar. It's pure grammar. This is not I have a table. This is not I have a book. This is another have with other functions grammatically. You have to tell them that tener is to have, for sure. Okay? But this have to has nothing to do with having things. It's having to do something. It's a clause of probably obligation. Okay? It's a clause of obligation. Okay? And we use it a lot, Laura. We use it a lot. So what are you gonna do next? You give them this example, they write this example, and the next thing you are going to do, Laura, is you say it in English. Use the English. Say, who can say they have to help? And I'm telling you that some student is going to say, yo, Laura, all the other things that I would recommend you is to say the students that every time they know something, to say yo sé or no sé. And it's here. Yo sé, no sé. There are things that they have to learn just by default, just by class context. You have to try to use English the least that possible, but use it smartly. If they can say something because they have learned, you don't have to explain this on the board. Say, if you know it, say from now on, yo sé. And they're going to say, yo sé, yo sé, yo sé. So they are going to learn, right? By default, and they are going to learn that saber is to know. Okay? Or no sé, no sé. Perfect. Okay? This comes by default. Here, you say in English, okay, ¿quién puede decir? They are going to, and then use English then. She has to help. And I'm sure that some student is going to say, I know. Okay? And the student is going to, ella tiene que ayudar. Okay? And you practice with this, only with tener que más infinitivo. Practice some words. But now is the key time. The key time comes now, Laura. What you have to integrate here is the prepositions and conjunctions. And the first one I love to integrate is this one. I love this one. Para has two meanings. In order to and for. Make a box, probably in the side notes section of the notebook. In my notebook, I have a section for side notes that are things that are coming up in class that are very important. This could go in the grammar section, probably, definitely, as well as in the side notes, whatever you choose. Okay? And now, you tell them, Laura, that in order to, even though in English they don't use it that much, it's important that we should use it more because it says that there is a purpose. It's a purpose. Every time we have a goal, we have to use, or we should say, in order to. In Spanish, we say it. We say para. Para, it's a clause of purpose. Okay? Estudio para aprender. Estudio para satisfacer a mis padres. Como para vivir. All those things have a purpose. It's a goal. Okay? And para, it's such a powerful word. It's such a powerful word in order to connect sentences. Para, it's a beautiful connector. When I first learned this, when I was learning English by myself, my English went to the next level. To the next level, Laura. Okay? And you are going to see how the motivation of your students is going to do woo, because they are going to feel it. So here, you're going to tell them that this is a clause of purpose, and then you studio, I have to study first in order. You tell them this. Okay? In order, you tell them this. In order to learn. Okay? And now, after your explanation, many of the students should be able to do this. Para aprender. Para aprender. Laura, mark it. Mark the new lessons. mark them. They have to see the relationships. Is the power of the translations. Okay? Mark the new lessons. Okay, Laura, once I've seen in my career this, once the students see that after 2 or 3 months of learning Spanish, they are able to say this and make sense on it. So I mean, they know exactly what they are saying. Okay? I tell you that their motivation is, okay. Now, keep practicing with this. Don't stop just with one. Keep practicing with this. And the best way to practice with this is to tell them, hey, I need you to build your own sentences. And some students are going to really think hard, and they're going to say, for example, things like, and tell them, don't use you all the time, because they tend to use you all the time. Tell them, no, I want all the conjugations, So then, somebody is going to say, nosotros, for example, could be, hablamos. Nosotros hablamos español para pasar, and they are going to start asking you, hey, this is the best. They're going to start asking you the questions. Hey, Laura, Miss Laura, what is exam in español? ¿Vale? El examen. They are going to build their own sentences. They are smart. They are smart. They are going to build their own sentences. Make the students think. And they are going to have the resources too. They are in class. They can check their list of verbs. So tell them that, hey, you are allowed to check the list of verbs, but learn to create your own sentences. And if they need extra vocabulary like this, give them the extra vocabulary. By the way, when a student asks a question, their attention to the lesson is double. So when a student asks you the question, what is examen in español? What is examen in español? You say examen, and he's going to acquire it immediately because that the student's attention to the lesson is double. Okay? Okay, nosotros. Okay, translation. We are going to, okay, nosotros, sorry about this. I made a mistake here, okay? But this could be one sentence, but we are now with tenemos que hablar, okay? But the other one works too. Hablar español para pasar el examen. Work on sentences, okay? Now we are this grammar, tener que plus infinitivo, okay? And we are integrating, so important, para in the sentence, which is making the sentence much bigger. Okay, what else can we integrate here, Laura? I'm going to give you, for example, some ideas. Integrating this practice, so as you see, we are not going to the lessons singly. We are trying to integrate many things at the same time. So, for example, here, integrate pero, integrate por qué. Such a powerful word, por qué. Laura, at the time that you integrate por qué, I suggest you, and this is very important, to explain at the same time por qué. This is why, and this is because. All these things, we are integrating them as we practice the main grammar, tener que más infinitivo. Okay? And this practice is going to take us some days in class. This is not going to be an explanation of 30 minutes. Okay? So, pero, you explain to them, just you give them the word, and then have them think of their own sentences. They are going to surprise you. They are able to build amazing sentences once they understand the lesson and they know the vocabulary. Okay? And then give them some time, Probably have them work in groups. That helps too. Okay? Okay, important here, Laura. ¿Por qué and por qué? Tell them this. I love to tell the students this, and they get it at first. Tell them that normally, when we ask the question why, we start the answer, we reply the answer starting with the word because. Why didn't you study? Asks your mother, and you answer, because I didn't have time. Why don't you eat? Because I'm not hungry. Why are you so sad today? Because I had a bad day. Okay? Do you see, Laura? They are related. ¿Por qué? The question why and the answer because. They are related. And in Spanish is so easy, so easy. ¿Por qué no estudias? Porque no tengo tiempo. ¿Por qué estás enfadado? Porque he tenido un mal día. ¿Por qué no comes? Porque no tengo hambre. They are going to get it immediately. Tell them. The only difference is one goes separated with the accent, the other one goes together. Okay? And you will see. In many times afterwards, they are going to say, you are going to say, examen, and they are going to come, maybe joking, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué? That's awesome, because you are seeing that they are learning. Okay, so these things we are integrating as we do this grammar. Okay, I am going to tell you the next. Immediately, once you finish with this, some days, you see that this is clear, the next is this one. The next is going to be this one. Okay? And again, I'm going to say this to you. It's because when I was learning English by myself, I started to use this grammar just because I needed it. Okay? Because I really needed this grammar for communication. And it was almost at the same time. I've got to, or I have to, with the next one, it's going to be ir a plus infinitivo. Okay, so this is the next one. This grammar is this. It's also mechanics, and they're gonna get it real quick. So you say to your students, okay, this time I'm going to teach you this. I am going to study. Okay? Perfect. What can you figure out of this? What can you give me? And somebody's going to say, yo. And the other one is going to say, or somebody's going to say, estudiar. Okay? And what you have to teach is the mechanics. And the mechanics is, yo voy a. Okay? Yo voy a. Okay? Sorry about this. This is like this. Okay? Whatever you want, but it's yo voy a. Okay? One more time, Laura. At this point, you have to tell your students that this has nothing to do with going anywhere. The word ir, to go, it's incredibly important, and yes, definitely the word ir is to go, and it seems like that it's, I have to go somewhere. Yes, okay, I go, she goes. Yes, that has to do with going anywhere. But this is grammar, and only grammar. This has nothing to do with going anywhere. This is I'm going to study. It's what we call in Spanish el presente cercano, or the near. No, el presente cercano, el futuro próximo, futuro cercano is the near future. El futuro. This is futuro. I'm going to study in a very near future. Okay? But we use it a lot in communication. We use it so much. And this is, for me, in my program, the second step. Okay, they know the mechanics because you already taught tener que más infinitivo. You tell them that the mechanics is different meaning, but now they know what para is. Tengo que estudiar, voy a estudiar, I'm going to study para aprender. Voy o va a ayudar a mi madre para tener dinero. Imagine, they normally can tener dinero. They are going to ask you in class, what is money? What is money in español? Dinero. You have to answer those questions. Okay, definitely you have to answer, but they are building vocabulary as they work in the grammar. You are not going singly to the vocabulary of dinero, comida. No, they are building things as they work in the grammar. And definitely they are building important things because they are connecting sentences. For example, this verb, 1, 2, 3 verbs in one sentence. In 3 months, this is a lot. This is a lot. Okay? Keep integrating because, pero. Laura, keep integrating y, and they are going to ask you y, keep integrating or you could integrate even more if you want, for example, comparisons like como, but this year I haven't taught it. You cannot teach, we can't teach everything. We have to show the students the mechanics, and you have to give the students the resources to learn by themselves too. Okay, this is the main, right now, nowadays, the main work of a languages teacher. Okay, and also, Laura, this is very important. This is very important. We have to, this is incredibly important. We have to integrate as we practice this grammar. Tener que plus infinitivo plus ir a más infinitivo. Integrate. Negative sentences, how to build negative sentences. Maybe you should have taught this before. I'm gonna give you a quick lesson about how to integrate sentences. What I do is this, Laura. Tell the students always, in order to build negative sentences in Spanish, we have to write no before the verb conjugated. And it's like this. No before the verb conjugated. For example, yo no como. Yo no como. You can say also no como. It always is no before the verb conjugated. They should already know what a verb conjugated means because you started from the conjugations. Okay? Also, Laura, when you stop in these important lessons, make the star. The star in the notebook of my students means one thing: important lesson, irregularity, pay attention. That is what means the star in the notebook of my students. Negative sentences. Also, Laura, interrogative sentences. Interrogative sentences. How to build sentences? How to build sentences in a question way. Okay? Okay. So here, as I said before, normally it's the same as affirmative sentence. So in Spanish, what it changed is that, for example, if I say, you don't study, no estudias, okay? In English, it's don't you study. We change the structure. We change and you put it at the beginning, okay? The verb, we put it at the beginning. But in Spanish, it doesn't work like that. In Spanish, it's no estudias. No estudias is the accent, is the way, is the rhythm, is the tone, what it changes. But remember, Laura, we almost never say the pronoun, the personal pronoun. we change the tone, but we almost never say the pronoun. ¿Tú no estudias? We don't say it like that. We normally say, no estudias. And if it's, you don't study, no estudias. Okay? So it's the tone, the way we say it. Eh? We almost never write pronoun. And we have to change the tone for interrogative sentences. When do we teach that? When do we teach that? When we are teaching the grammar. When my students are building sentences in class. We combine lessons. Time is gold. Time is gold. We combine lessons. Next. Okay? So we have taught. Tener que plus infinitivo, we have taught. Ir a plus infinitivo, and now the easiest one. The easiest one. Okay, I'm gonna write it here, Laura. The next one is gonna be this one. The next one is gonna be poder más infinitivo. Okay? Poder más infinitivo, which is the easiest one. I can study. Yo puedo estudiar. Okay? Yo puedo aprender. And then tell them also, hey, give me advanced sentences, please. Give me advanced sentences. Don't tell me only she has to learn. She has to learn in order to pass the exam. She has to learn in order to I don't know, in order to have good grades. More, okay? More advanced. She has to help she can't help her father. Imagine, for example, here you have the possessive adjectives. She can't help her father, su padre, because she is going to study. Imagine that. All those have been explained lesson. She can't help her father because she has to study. That is amazing. And if that comes from their mind, that's all. That's all you need in order for the students to learn Spanish or any language. Okay? But have the students learn. Or no, not learn, no, sorry. Have the students please think of the sentences. Create the sentences in their mind. Give them examples. Guide them. Guide. As a teacher, you have to be a guide. But don't give them everything because they are not going to learn then. Okay? This is my approach, and it works. Okay? More, Laura. What do we have to integrate also here, Laura? As I said, negative sentences, interrogative sentences, and one thing we have to start integrating when we teach these three big grammars. Okay? And it's this. We teach this also as we go with the grammar. It's this one. Okay? Also integrate. Also integrate as we go. And this is very important. The interrogative pronouns. What is the interrogative pronouns? The interrogative pronouns is what, how, why, how many, how much. Maybe not all of them, but what, for example, ¿qué? What? Yes, integrated as we are teaching the other grammar. What? When? ¿Cuándo? And it's very simple. It's just, I have to study, or you have to study, and you tell the students, okay, I want you to see that you integrate this on your sentences. You give them this, you give them the definition here, when, what, okay? But then Have them think. And you tell them, okay, who can build a sentence with this, integrating this? So it's very simple. If you say, she has to study, you only have to say, when does she has to study? And you already taught how to build interrogative sentences. So it's going to be, ¿cuándo tiene que estudiar? Very simple. Tiene que estudiar. ¿Qué tiene que estudiar? Why does she has to study? ¿Por qué tiene que estudiar? And you don't teach those things singly. You teach those things as we are working in the grammar and building long sentences. Okay? That way they work many things at the same time. So we could cover this, I think. Let's say this would be with exams and all those things, I don't know, maybe half of the year. Okay, now, how do I make the exams? How do I make the exams? About these sentences, about all this practice that I'm doing with my students in class. Okay, very simple. I'm gonna show you right now. I have them here. Okay. Attention. Check it out. I have here, for example, so many. Okay, all right. Here. They build their own sentences. I give them a paper in blank. Okay. You can start with these exams once you have done practices of tener que más infinitivo, ir a más infinitivo, poder más infinitivo. You have seen that they are already practicing a lot. Exam. What is the requirement of the exam? For me, it is to write 20 sentences with 20 different verbs. They cannot say all the time, I have to study, she has to study, they have to study. No. If you have used study, it's enough. You don't use study for any other verbs or any other sentence as long as you are giving me in total 20 different verbs. Second requirement, for example, they have to use all the conjugations. All the conjugations. Poder, tener que, ir a, all the conjugations. Okay? So, yo tengo que estudiar, tú tienes que, él tiene que. Using, adding in the sentences the possessive adjectives, extra credit. Using and doing advanced sentences with para, que, cuando. I let the students use their imagination. And I always say to my students, there is no a bigger gift than a teacher giving you a paper in blank and telling you write what you know, as long as you meet the requirements. That's a gift. They can prepare this exam at home and prepare 20 different sentences, more or less memorize it and come here and do it. It's not the best thing, but I'm telling you that if they do that, they learn. And many have acquired already the enough knowledge that I could go to them and tell them, okay, do this exam at any moment, and they would do magnificent exams. Okay, so yes, they add in all this information, extra credits. I'm not going to explain to you right now the way I grade, because it's not that, but it's a great exercise. Then I just check mark their mistakes, and they have to correct their mistakes by themselves or here in groups in class, which is also great for them to be collaborating and working on their mistakes and as a partners, as a classmates on correcting their mistakes. This is great. Laura, don't stop doing this exam until the end of the school year. How many of these are per term? Once you start, I would do once a month. Once a month, one. Okay, once you start. So I would say maybe 2 in one term. Okay, the second term 1, another 2 in the third term. Okay, so I would do this. But there are more like this. This is just one example of how to do the exams with sentences. More. How can you get then, and this is important, Laura, we said that this was going to be the way to check their vocabulary in the first term. After the second term, you have to see how they pronounce and how they understand. How can you check that? So what I do is this exam, which is very scary, actually it's very scary, but it's very, very effective. Okay, so I'm not gonna record you, Laura, but please, could you help me here? I'm not gonna record you, check it out. So I have these verbs, okay? I have here these verbs, which are the verbs that are in my list, okay? So my students come here and they pick 3 of this. They have to pick just 5. They have to pick 5 from the list. It's luck works here. They pick 5. And for example here I have the word querer. And what I say is the first one. I say, okay, ¿qué significa querer? And they have to say in English to want. Okay, then I go and the next one is, for example, ¿qué significa guardar? To put away. ¿Qué significa vender? To sell. ¿Qué significa necesitar? Okay, and one more, ¿qué significa intentar? Okay, if they get all right, they already have the 100%, and if they get just some, they get all the percentages. I'm not gonna explain my grading system right now, and then what you do in order to push up the grade or to lower down the grade is to ask the conjugations. Why? Because it's grammar too, you know, and they need to show that they pronounce well as they understand well. They already showed that they understood well because I say, ¿qué significa querer? Okay, but, for example, I say necesitar tú. So we're working on the conjugations now, and they have to say, tú necesitas. Necesitar, ellos necesitan. Just do some with all the words. Okay, vender is second conjugation. I say vender, ellos venden. Vender, nosotros vendemos. If they show you that they know the conjugations, you push up the grade. Okay, if you see that they are having difficulties, lower down, but not that much. Why not that much? Because if they know the meaning of the words, they are already having the tool to communicate. Okay, if they don't know the meaning, they know nothing. Okay, they cannot communicate. But not knowing the conjugations perfectly, it doesn't affect the communication that much. That's the reason why you cannot grade the conjugations the same way as you grade the vocabulary. You know, that wouldn't make much sense. Because the vocabulary is important, the conjugations, they don't affect that much the vocabulary. So, this is a very quick way to do the exam. It's scary, but it's not going to take you time as a teacher, because you're going to grade it as you go, and it really forces the students to study. I have seen magnificent results with this exam because they don't really want to do a bad exam oral in front of their classmates. You have to be a little careful, you know, you don't want to be too loud, and you don't want to put any student down, but they have to go through this. And I know that many of the students really study for this because they want to do a nice exercise, okay? It's an exercise that is going to take you just 5 minutes, but they are going to learn the vocabulary and they want to do this right. Okay, so this is something also, Laura, that I would do every 3 weeks. Every 3 weeks. You are going to see how the students learn and study the most important thing, which is the vocabulary. Okay, what else? So we have done the 3 grammars, this, okay, exams. We're working on the exams, vocabulary exams. We're working also on the exams, the written exams with the sentences in the translations. And one thing is gonna be the next. You could do this also in between, Laura, but this is something that is gonna be quick too. It's something very important, which is going to be serie estar. Serie estar. Serie estar is very confusing for English speakers. Very confusing. It's the verb to be, and we have two verbs in English. In Spanish, and you in English, or the English speakers, they have just one, which is to be. Serie estar. Okay, take a time, answer what I say. Always start from the general to the particular. There are so many irregularities, but you don't want to go to the irregularities. Okay, in order to start the speaking serie estar, Laura, I think I gave you this. It's the adjectives. The adjectives is starting to take place right now in the classroom. We need adjectives and adverbs. So here I have a list made by me, the adjectives and adverbs that work with ser, and the adjectives and adverbs that mostly work with star, and the adjectives and adverbs that could work with both. Okay, it's confusing. You cannot expect that they are going to learn this in 1 week. No, okay, but give them this, and then what you have to do is explain what serie estar is and when do we use normally ser and when do we use normally star. Real quick, I'm going to explain this. Okay, sir, permanent features or characteristics of people or things. Okay, that is sir. Also, I wouldn't say this at first. Events. Events are ser too. Okay, but I wouldn't say that at first. And there star. This is the first lesson with serie star. I would do it this way. Okay, ser that, and star. I would do this. Emotions. States of being, emotions, which are very related. States of being and emotions are very related. I have here, you need this for your classroom. It's gonna help the students too. Okay, these are the states of being are the emotions. States of being or emotions. And second, location. The location of the things. There is more. Okay, but this is not for, I wouldn't add more for the beginning of the school year, for now. You can here add also present progressive. I couldn't teach this year. We don't have time for everything in 1 year. Present progressive, okay, works with a star, and here, for example, events. Events, and it's confusing with location, but la fiesta es en San Bernadette, it's an event. Mi madre está en San Bernadette, it's location, okay? You have to work on this, and this is very important for them too. How can you teach now this? Also, one more time, okay? Sentences, exams. An exam, 20 sentences, using, or 15, using ser, a section for ser, and another for star. They have to learn the vocabulary of the adjectives to build the sentences. They have to show you when they are using serie star for location. Have them write. I love having my students write their own sentences with their translations, okay? Because by the end of the school year, they're going to learn so much. If you give them multiple choice questions or fill the gap questions, there is no much learning. There is no much learning, because when they write sentences, they are all the time repeating and practicing things that they already know, but that is there is the consolidation. Okay? All right. More. With this, we're covering so much already, okay? How much longer do you have? 15
7
minutes?
minutes.
7 minutes? It's okay. So this is, with this, you are covering a lot, okay? You are covering a lot. Remember all the linkers. Then, for example, a little bit more advanced, but incredibly important, it's gonna be also, for example, and I can give you some video that explains this in detail. For example, I like this one, it's que. Stop one day and explain que. And que, it's a big word in Spanish. Que, it's a big word in Spanish. Que has, for example, the meaning of que with the accent, which is what, for questions, interrogative pronoun. Que, it's also que conjunction, which is that. I think that she is smart. Creo que ella es inteligente. Very important. And as I said, I have a video that explains only the que conjunction, and I'm not gonna go into that explanation right now. Que for example, expressions. Que bonito. Que expressions. Que expressions. Que bonito. Que inteligente. Que bien. Que expressions. Okay? That is something that for me, the first year, it's important to focus the lesson on the word que. More. And there is much more. Now, this is important. There is a time, after explaining all this grammar, I'm telling you that the students are going to already know well, but we have to transfer all this knowledge to the real communication. How can we do that? How can we do that? We can do that through projects. And for me, the projects I love to do is bringing the theater to my classroom, bringing the acting performances to my classroom. I have done 2 or 3 this year. Presentations and basic conversations, that could be one in order to do in front of the audience, but that is very small. Another one is, for example, Laura, projects. Projects. Because these projects, it's really to bring the communication to the classroom. It's not only writing. We have to see that our students are using and they know how to use the what they learn. Project. One is the compras. The compras. The compras has, for example, it's a context in which there is a barista or somebody who's selling the food. For example, you can use any vocabulary. Food, clothing, you can use any vocabulary. I use the food. And the grammar that you have to teach before doing this, for example, for the compras, I like to teach the grammar comparations. Comparations, I hope I'm writing this properly. No mistakes, I hope. Comparison. Okay. Yeah, it's correct. I don't know. Okay, vale. So here, what is this? More than, more expensive than, the same as, más que, menos que, lo mismo, el mismo. This is grammar, and for sure this más que, for example, más que is more than, menos que, less than, as you can see, here there is more que. Que is everywhere. Que is a word that is everywhere, but in this case it's comparisons. Okay? Lo mismo que. So we have to teach the grammar first, and then with the grammar you give the students what they need, the tools they need in order to do the exercise, which is the acting performance. Okay? The compras is one big one that I love to do. I have another one which is amazing. And with this I think, Laura, we can almost finish. Laura saw this project. This second one is el conflicto dramático. El conflicto dramático, it's a drama conflict. El conflicto dramático. All right. It's okay, I pass it. Don't worry. So el conflicto dramático, it's a drama conflict that we do in my class, and the big objectives to really that are involved in this performance are gonna be the object direct pronoun and the indirect pronoun. Okay? So what I did for this project is I had a group of 3 in which 2 you have to give the context to your students, okay? This is the cool thing, or something, it's a very important requirement that a teacher has to follow in order to make the theater or the acting performances work in his classes. Okay, so in this case, in groups of 3, one of the students was the dad, and the other 2 students were the siblings, and they were fighting for the love they had for a girl, and the parent is like stopping the fight. There is not a physical contact, not at all. It's just don't speak to me. She doesn't love you. She doesn't want to speak to you. And as you can see, in all those sentences, I have integrated there is integrated the object direct pronoun and the indirect pronoun, as well as the commands. Okay, so this is the main thing that we worked on this project. Okay, so it's gonna be the object direct pronoun, objeto directo, objeto indirecto. This is in Spanish. El objeto directo, el objeto indirecto, y el imperativo. Imperativo, which is imperative. Okay, it doesn't matter. The imperative, which is the commands. Okay, so help me, don't help me. Okay, in order to make the performance work, we first have to teach these objectives. Where do we teach those objectives? Here in the whiteboard, and using the translations. Okay, I have here the packages you have to give to your students first, and the explanations. Along with the explanations you have to give to your students in order for them to know what they're doing. This is el imperativo. Okay. This is the object direct pronoun and the indirect pronoun. First practices here, as I like, with the translations, with the participation of the students, with their, by using English too. Many times I just tell them, okay, bring me, so how would you say in Spanish, bring me the pencil, and they have to think, okay, tráeme el lápiz. You have to explain all the process in order to build these sentences, okay? Tráeme, together. I'm not gonna go into detail in this explanation, but this is important in my first year as a teacher. By this point, when I'm explaining these 2 subjects, important subjects, we are already in the 3rd term, okay? covering the year with everything that I have taught you right now in 2 hours, taught you or explained to you right now in 2 hours, it's a lot. And I think with all this, we are almost done. It's a successful year. The present progressive could be taught too. For example, I have more things like I have another one that is important very also to add in the first year. Expressions with tener. I don't invest any time in class to explain this, okay? Just a few minutes, but you have to give these resources to the students, especially for those students who really want to learn. There are students who are very motivated and they go home, it's very well explained, and they learn these things, okay? And they can then implement these things in the sentences we work in class. So as you can see, in the end of the school year, we are starting to transfer what we are learning from the whiteboard and from the translations and from the sentences, let's say from the sentences to the performances. I love the acting performances, I'm sorry, and they have so much learning. It's very fun for the students, and when they enjoy, it's when there is even more learning, because honestly, when they see that they are translating and using just building sentences for a long time, they start to get a little bored. Okay, so we have to implement new strategies in our classroom too, and the theater for me is great for that. The last important thing that I would add, that I have added in my program in this school, really, I taught only 1 year in this school and I've been able to cover all this, is this, okay? This is another paper that I give to my students very early in the year. I don't tell them they have to study, but I tell them this is incredibly important. You need to know this, okay? And it's the demonstratives, okay? Aquí, ahí, allí. Definitely aquí is something that you are going to teach as you go. For example, when you write something, you say aquí, 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 and they're going to get it. You have to, as a teacher, you have to speak as much as you can with intelligence, for sure, in Spanish. You cannot speak all the time in Spanish to a group that has a very low level, or they are still down in the level of Spanish, because that is going to play maybe a little hard on their motivation. But very smartly, we can teach many things. Esto, aquí, esto. But we have to do an exam of this too, and we have finished the school year doing an exam like this. And this exam has been this one, okay? This is a translation exam. They don't get to do their own sentences. It's a pretty tough exam, okay? It's set star más demonstratives plus possessive adjectives, and they have to say, for example, they have to translate into Spanish the sentences like, this is his book. So they have to integrate that knowledge, the knowledge of the possessive demonstrative pronouns, okay? This is, they have to choose between serie star, his book. They have to integrate the right one from here and then the vocabulary. I don't do it too hard, but I know it's a very complete exercise also, and we try to finish the school year with the object direct pronoun, the indirect pronoun, which is here, okay? The imperative and the object indirect pronoun and direct pronoun, they go together. I like to teach them at the same time, because many times you say, speak, okay? We can say speak only, which is a command, but many times we say, speak to me, okay? Or look at me, okay? There is the pronouns, the object, the pronoun, the indirect pronoun, they go many times integrated with or in the imperative sentence or word or clause. So this is a little bit everything. The main thing I wanted to explain today has been the importance of the three big grammars, okay? Ir a plus tener que plus infinitivo, ir a plus infinitivo, poder plus infinitivo, and how from that we can build longer sentences and implement in those sentences important linkers, like for example because, but, for, in order to. For the first year I think it's enough. I have even explained other years para qué, in order that, but I think for the first year that is too much, because that is going to require also the subjunctive, and the subjunctive is a very hard lesson to learn. One more thing that I have forgotten to say is the past tense. I know that this is only used in Spain, okay? Or especially used in Spain. I'm not gonna say only used in Spain, but especially used in Spain, which is gonna be haber, okay? Haber is over there, and it's yo he terminado el examen. I know that in America they say yo terminé el examen, even though that action has happened, imagine that has happened 5 minutes ago. We don't speak like that in Spanish. I like to teach this to my students because I want to show them that they can already start speaking also in past tense. And I think it's easier, much easier to start from here because they only have to learn the conjugations and then add ido or ado. Okay, there are some irregularities here too, but I have explained that to my students too. So they have learned 4 big grammar compositions, not only 3, 4. Okay, and then as I said, I want to remind you again, these verbs are very important. I haven't gone through this, but it's very easy. It's the future. Once they know the verbs, they only have to add that conjugation in order to build sentences in the future. There are always some irregular verbs, like for example here, or irregular constructions or conjugations, whatever you want to call it, and they are very important verbs, but there are things that we have to just memorize, okay? And for the next year, I would focus a little bit more on this, okay, which is the past simple, and also we have 2 different past simples, which is one is the el imperfecto and the other one is el indefinido. So I would focus a little bit the teaching in the differentiation of those 2 different past ways, the ways of doing the past sentence in Spanish. Also using which is called marcadores textuales or discursivos. Bringing the theater to the class is very important, but we have to teach the students things like, for example, bueno, pues, things that we use a lot in communication and we don't see that many times on the books, which is communication. Marcadores textuales, textual, maybe marks, or discursive, discursivos in Spanish, I know the way they are called. So this is a little bit everything. I hope you have enjoyed. I hope this really serves you if you really want to start a program from scratch. These are the steps I have been taken in my years as a teacher, and I have seen important results. Some students learn so much, others learn, but every student is different too. But for me, the important thing is that all of them learn, and every student learn at its own rhythm. And the students are learning at their own rhythm because you are giving them the chance to write and say sentences as big as they want, and by using the knowledge they already have acquired, okay? So yes, I think with this, I think it's enough for this time. I hope it serves you. If you really need any of my resources, any of my packages, just let me know, write a message, And if you like it, just subscribe, thumbs up, or any feedback is going to be really helpful for me, because this is a constant learning languages, learning to teach languages. Both learning languages and learning to teach languages is a lifelong process, and we all have a lot to learn from each other. Okay, bye bye, and thank you very much.